All right, welcome. I will share my screen here and we'll get started with this meeting. So welcome again to our first advisory meeting for 2023. If you were wondering what happened in January, we were still waiting for our funding approval and contract from CPUC. So we just gave it an extra rest in January. But we are planning to continue meeting throughout 2023, the third Thursday of each month. If you registered for this meeting, which if you're here, you did register, then you should have received the same link that will work for every month's meeting. There was also a calendar invite or a piece to the calendar in the link that you received from Zoom that you should be able to add to your calendar so that you can get the reminders that you need. So a quick overview of our agenda. We'll do a quick round of introductions and then talk a little bit about the way that BCPC is organized for 2023. And then go over a few updates from the Broadband Consortium and then open it up to a roundtable discussion. So if we could go around the room, the Zoom room, and take a few minutes to introduce yourself, your name, your organization, your role within that organization, and then what areas do you serve in the Tri-County region and what's your focus? Are you working in actual fiber construction? Are you in planning and design? Are you part of the Digital Equity Coalition? What is it that you're here to learn from? So I'll start, Shelby Arthur, and I'm leading the Broadband Consortium for the Tri-County area. I actually live and work in Santa Barbara County. So Santa Barbara County will be my main primary focus, but I will also be working with all three counties on inclusion initiatives and coordinating with our partners in each county to just report up to CPUC what we're working on. And I think I'll call on Bill to go next.
It's based in Oxnard in the Ventura County area, and that's going to be my focus for the year ahead. And I'm going to be spending some time looking at and planning for smart city kinds of conversations and events. And let me go to George Amendola.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. George Amendola. My business is Cyber Dynamics, which is a privacy consulting and cybersecurity consulting firm. And then I have another business called Syncrasy, and we're specializing in Internet of Things technology, real-time location tracking and services, and aligning that with big data. That's a pivot. I've had a long career in telecommunications, having been an officer at 2 NASDAQ companies, and in addition, my own telecom company for about 20 years. I'm very involved in the discussion as it relates to the city of Ventura, and I've been, I think, a member of the consortium now since 2015 with Bill. And it seems we're at a real pivot point here, and we're evolving into the smart city discussion. Thank you.
I'll call Jamie. Would you like to go next?
Sure, Jamie Fleming. I head the Ojai Valley Chamber of Commerce, but I also represent the city of Ojai for broadband with this group. And right now we're definitely looking towards the future, because it will be a while probably before broadband gets to us. So we're trying to establish with our new city council members dialogue on how to be ready for it and what would be the needs. And Bill, I'm telling you, I'm a big fan of smart cities. We're a little town, but I still feel there are a lot of things we might be able to have in play, especially regarding traffic, parking, things that deal with the tourism issues we have in a small town here. So anyway, that's why I'm here.
Thanks, Jamie. I'm just going to go down my screen here. Tim, would you introduce yourself? Tim Tierney?
Yeah, you bet. Hello, everybody. My name is Tim Tierney. I provide GIS and mapping support for the Broadband Consortium. I also I came to the Broadband Consortium out of having been providing GIS services to Santa Barbara County for 12 years and running now, providing them with their enterprise platform through my cloud software company, which is simplelayers.com. Back to you, Shelby.
Thanks, Tim. Julie, you're next on my screen.
Good morning, everybody. Julie Judd. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the Ventura County Office of Education. I have had the pleasure of getting to know Bill Simmons for the last few years and getting very involved in the digital equity work. And to that end, we will be hosting our first digital equity conference next Thursday. And we're very excited. We have 65 people registered thus far. And if you have not registered, I encourage you to register, and I'll drop the link in the chat. But it is such a pleasure to be an anchor institution, getting to work with all of you. And, you know, the stories I'm hearing about the need out there is so great. So I'm very excited to be part of this team. Thank you, Sean.
Rich, basic.
All right, let me get this lined up here. There we go. I'm Rich Graysick. I am from the city of Lompoc, and we have been working on our LATA grant preparation and getting all that stuff together. And we are taking more of a digital equity stance on it. You know, we have 2 providers here in town that have done an incredible amount of construction and work. So for us to replicate anything would be sort of a duplication of effort. And getting Frontier and Comcast involved in this whole project, I think, would be the quicker route to getting people connected. After all, that's my understanding of what the governor's plan is, to get people connected. So that's where I'm at.
Thanks, Rich. Steve Weingart.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm the general manager for Ridge Communications. We're based in Ventura County with offices in the San Francisco Bay Area as well. We do engineering, permitting, construction, maintenance, repair, all of the above on fiber optic networks, wireless networks. We work for tier 1 carriers, Crown Castle, AT&T, Verizon, Wireless, Frontier, and a lot of smaller internet service providers that build and maintain fiber networks, primarily in Santa Barbara and Ventura counties. I've been a part of this group almost since its inception, and my interest in this is twofold. I've been in telecom in Ventura County for 35 years and in the business for over 40 years. And I'm very happy to see the initiative that this group has taken and how far they've come. And obviously I have a commercial interest in sooner or later when you actually come around to engineering, permitting, building, and maintaining this thing, we would like to be a part of it. So I can also offer a lot of street level and real world experience in building and maintaining these types of networks.
Thank you. Russ, you wanna go next?
Me, this Russ. All right. Good morning, everybody. Russ Levenway. I'm Executive Vice President at REACH. So REACH is the Economic Impact Organization. And we provide, basically our focus is the creation of high-wage jobs in San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties. So we interface with the state governor's office of business and economic development, GoBiz, and businesses that are looking to grow or expand in this region. And we are very much engaged and supportive of broadband as one of those key infrastructure cornerstones to job creation and the ability of businesses to thrive here and individuals to thrive. So that's where our core interest is in broadband. And we're proud to have played a small part in supporting the Santa Barbara Regional Broadband Strategy in partnership with SBCAG and the Broadband Consortium and other key partners. And also excited to support in the SLO County, the convening of all the different stakeholders in this county to bring together for a regional strategy, hopefully this year.
Thank you, Rod. Who's next? Kurt Dennett. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thanks, Shelby. My name is Kurt Dennett. I'm the VP of Technology and Infrastructure for a nonprofit that's in all 3 of the counties in the Tri-Counties, as well as LA County and Kern County. We're a nonprofit organization that represents adults with developmental disabilities and mental illness, helping them in residential and also in employment settings. My primary interest in the consortium was actually, I'm also a resident of Los Alamos in Santa Barbara County. And I'm actually glad to, I found some information out that Los Alamos is getting closer to getting high-speed internet. Frontier is now installed the high-speed fiber internet at the switching station here in Los Alamos. And they've gotten permits or are getting permits this quarter for micro trenching for the fiber to distribute it through the town. So
Exciting stuff. Thanks, Kurt. Miguel Perez, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Shelby. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name is Miguel Perez. I'm from the city of Santa Paula. I'm the administration intern here at the city, but I'm also a AmeriCorps member with Lead for America. And essentially, what I'm working with at the moment is our ladder grant efforts. And, my interest in these calls is, when I began last year with Bill Simmons, all these terms and terminology was so hard to kind of get into a consensus of, but now being a member for over 6 months, it's nice to see, the fruit coming. And so, yeah, it's been really good. And most recently, we had a discussion with the school district and how our ladder grant efforts are going to be able to also assist them when it comes to making sure that, we're not being redundant in our work and making sure that the efforts that the city are making are also aiding in the school district's mission as well. Because, it's not just the efforts of the city, but also the students in our city. So, and I'm also going to be at Net Inclusion in the next month in San Antonio, Texas. So it's exciting. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks. I hope you can bring back some information for us about how that San Antonio event goes.
I will.
How about Alan Casares, LOCOG?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Alan Casares here with the San Luis Obispo Council of Governments. I am primarily a transportation planner with SLOCOG. I've been here for about 6 months. I originally started in the broadband space, just doing GIS mapping and data development for our region's ladder grants. More recently, a couple months ago, I was handed the role of, I guess you could say, project lead here at the Metropolitan Planning Organization when it comes to broadband. Really, I've just been monitoring state and federal efforts and grant opportunities and trying to educate our board of supervisors on the opportunities and all the emerging policies coming out with the broadband. And just recently, we got a board approval to begin convening regional meetings. So we'll be working on that. And there's a lot of different stakeholders, and we have help from REACH, and I look forward to working with the BCPC as well. But yeah, just here to absorb some more information. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Alan. Terry Theobald, would you go next?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is it afternoon yet? Actually, yes, no. Good morning. My name is Terry Theobald. I'm the County of Ventura CIO. And I've been presented a number of times on this committee, but my focus is on a municipal middle mile. Unlike an earlier statement, we are not as committed to relying on the state funding nor the telecom providers to provide the services that we need to our disadvantaged areas. In addition, we believe there's substantial cost savings to our government to pursue the middle mile solution, which includes a direct connection to One Wilshire and eventually a connection north through Santa Barbara County. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Love that work. I think I still have Pedro Chavez. Would you please introduce yourself?
Good morning, everybody. This is Pedro Chavez. I am a member of the Santa Paula City Council. I'm here to observe and learn about ways to develop digital equity for our residents and their families. Thanks.
Eleanor Gardner, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Eleanor Gartner on the Public and Government Affairs team at Cox Communications. We have been working very closely with BCPC over the past year as the study develops, looking for ways that we can support our cities and the county on all things adoption and digital equity work as well. I'm very excited to be here and have these meetings back up and running.
I have a caller, 805-441-6093. Is that somebody who would like to introduce themselves, or is that someone who's already been introduced?
Hi, guys. This is Tim Williams from Astound Broadband, and I'm on the call with you. Primarily San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties is our focus, but we're actually a national brand. We're in 11 states, and we're doing a lot more expansion down into Southern California. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. I'm so happy that you were able to make it.
And Shelby, can I jump in for a second? Because this is Kirsten, also with Cox. I'm the market vice president here in the Santa Barbara market with Cox. And I just realized I'm showing up as Eleanor as well. So you get Eleanor twice, but one of her looks like me. And happy to be here today. Been working with Bill and the team for a long time and love seeing all the momentum around broadband and digital equity and all the work we're doing together. So appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you shouting out because I really did think that there were two Eleanors on the call.
I didn't understand why my name wasn't up there. I don't know what's going on.
You can rename, fun fact, if you hover over your window and see those three dots, you can click on them and rename, and then you'll be you.
I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to introduce yourselves. I know some of you have been on this call for many years and some are just joining, so I'm happy to be able to see the range of participation. This meeting has, as long as I've been a part of it, and I'm sure as long as Bill's been hosting it, has really been set up to be a multi-directional conversation. We are here to share information as the BCPC that's coming out from CPUC and other partners. And then we also are here to listen and hear what kind of projects you're working on and any information you want to share out with our region so that we can promote collaboration and partnerships and really work together to reach this full broadband deployment that we're all so passionate about. So thank you all for being here. We'll take a minute to just talk to you a little bit about the way BCPC is organized for 2023. We are still under the umbrella of the Economic Development Collaborative. Bruce Stensley, who couldn't be here for this meeting, is our broadband consortium lead. He is going to be working closely with us over the next year as EDC, as the host of the broadband consortium. We are organizing to have primary contacts in each county, and then also primary contacts that are just sort of the specialists in the three different pillars that have been identified for the broadband consortium: infrastructure, inclusion, and innovation. So up in San Luis Obispo County, I am excited to announce that we are partnering with Reach, and Russ Levenway will be our primary contact in San Luis Obispo. In Santa Barbara County, I'll be the primary contact working with partners to develop our infrastructure and our digital equity initiatives here in the county. And Bill will be focusing a lot more of his energy, rather than spreading himself all over the tri-counties, will be focusing more of his energy in Ventura County. And will also be our lead on the smart cities and innovation conversations. Russ and Bill, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Sure, I'm really happy to be able to join and support this effort. And the needs are different in each of these counties. And it's so great to see Santa Barbara County having a great comprehensive plan. And we want to create a similar work effort in San Luis Obispo County to support and convene and help them, bring those efforts together. And the other side of it is on the infrastructure side. It just so happens in my prior background, I was the CEO of the IT firm, and Tim Williams is on this call, and we worked very closely together over many years because we had many customers in common. But in terms of understanding broadband infrastructure, the underlying elements of it and the technical terminology and just the mapping and how broadband fundamentally works, I can bring some context to the conversation that way as well. So it's great to be able to support the overall efforts by the Broadband Consortium in that way as well. Thank you.
The only comment I would make is how this journey has changed and evolved over the years from the very beginning to where we're at now, and the pandemic had a lot to do with it. It's not that there was one person in 3 counties, but the amount of work has increased 3 times, maybe 5 times as much across the 3 counties. And it's just, the work has changed, the magnitude of the effort has changed, and we're going to have broadband for all when we're all said and done. It's a transformational moment, and we're all excited about this. And I'm just thrilled that I can continue to do what I do, and at the same time get more focused and more deep in terms of how we do it locally. So it's all good.
Did anyone have any questions they wanted to add about the way we're organized? We're going to be sending out a monthly newsletter with maybe some bite-sized reminders in between rather than a weekly missive, trying to really focus around the 3 pillars and timely information so that you can participate in some of the initiatives and meetings that are happening at the state level or the federal level. We are also happy in that newsletter to share out information if there's something that you are working on that you'd love participation in or support. And we will hold these monthly meetings as well, which are intended to be a roundtable. So please feel free to bring information or questions that you have to this meeting. You can see that there is such a depth of experience in this area. And for those of you who are sort of dipping your toes in right now, I think that this is a great opportunity to learn from some of the folks that have been doing this work for a long time. Okay, on to the updates then. So we're going to start with the infrastructure updates, and really I am hoping we can open up a conversation. I'm curious to hear from the folks on this call about their impressions about the CPUC priority area maps and the FCC maps. And we are going to share a speed test overlay of the CPUC priority area map so that you can take a look at some of the data that we've gathered over the last year in terms of how it vibes or doesn't vibe with the CPUC priority area maps. So again, super interested to hear your feedback in your area of expertise or in your area of geography. So if you can see my screen here still, I'm just opening up the CPUC priority area maps.
Shelby, can I jump in real quick? And Eleanor, keep me honest here, but we're hearing that CPUC is going to be redoing these maps pretty significantly.
Yes, and we're hearing, or I'm hearing also, that there's a pretty strong contingency across the state to say, throw them out in the first place, let locations make their own decisions. And the reason we wanted to focus on this conversation first here today is, they're gathering comments about these maps. So if this could be your call to action for today, put in your feedback to say, this vibes with what we think, yes, this is correct, or no, this is way off. How did you even come up with this information? They were designed by an algorithm, right? And we all know that that's not necessarily the best final product. That might be a great start, but really the input is really important. Kristen, did you want to add to that?
No, I think what you said about the questions around how these maps were designed is that seems to be the big question, because they don't seem to line up and it, you know, we all know this area very well, but what I'm hearing is across the state, they don't seem to line up with what lots of different filters that people are looking at for building out these maps, and they don't seem to line up with the FCC maps and with reality on the ground in a lot of cases. So I'm hearing April-ish for some new maps, but we all know how some of these processes work. We'll see if that happens.
Shelby, if I may, can I jump in?
Please do.
Okay, hi everybody. This is Tim doing the mapping support for the Broadband Consortium, and I've spent some time looking at these maps, and this one that Shelby has up of all the multiple colors is the priority areas recently released by the CPUC. And I was looking into, you know, like the previous speaker was saying, how do these line up with other things like unserved residences or low population areas, and there is not a very strong correlation between what they designate as a priority zone and those same areas having lack of service or low income. Like in coastal Santa Barbara, you can see that most of the Santa Barbara South Coast is a priority area, and they, for the most part, have good service and high income through that area. So that's one mystery. Another mystery is amongst these different priority areas, are some higher priority than others? That's not, they don't say. And then a third mystery is why are they broken into these different polygons? When the polygons abut each other directly, why are they different zones? That's not explained. Another mystery is exactly what is this algorithm that they used, which doesn't seem to be directly informed by income or lack of service. So what is their algorithm? They do have it's like a 24-page PDF that's on the site that I looked at, and the PDF does talk about in general terms different factors that they consider, but at no time do they say, here's the actual formula. And here's exactly how we, determined what areas are going to be priority and what aren't. And I think they're not saying that because if they provide the formula, then people from the public can nitpick the formula. So there's a lot of mysteries here. And then also, we're not finding, I mean, this is just one interaction. Maybe I shouldn't extrapolate from this, but I'm not finding that they're being very responsive, because in providing the data, because not only did they provide this interactive map that Shelby's driving, but if you go to their site, you can get spreadsheets of the data and all the different attributes, as we call it in GIS speak, that pertain to these different polygons. But what I wanted for my analysis, so I could produce better graphics, was I wanted the actual polygons themselves, which is a GIS thing. You want the coordinates to draw the polygons in a GIS software. And I asked for that, and they didn't respond at all for a couple of weeks. And then Shelby repeated the request, and then we got back a response, which was, sorry, we don't have it, or we're not going to share it. Sorry. So, which is a little disappointing. So I hadn't heard myself that maybe they're going to release new maps. I hope they do, because, and I hope that they're a little more transparent as well about how they arrived at what they have here, because there's a lot of mysteries going on. Thank you. Back to you, Shelby.
Shelby, Tim made me think of many other things, but I'll keep it to two. One is, my understanding is that this map was just put together by staff and not, didn't go through any sort of normal CPUC process, which, as you all know, is lots of back and forth and opportunity for input and is this right, is this not right, that kind of thing. The other thing just for this group to know, which I find interesting, is the CPUC asked us and presumably many other providers for lots of information last year about where we serve and where our customers are, and none of that, which we gave them, I should say, they asked, we gave them, none of that's in these maps, which begs lots of questions.
Lots of questions that haven't been answered. I would encourage you, though, to take these maps as an evolving contribution to this. The concerning piece is that they are linked to funding allocations, that are going to be coming down in the summertime. So they do need to figure out how they want to use this, and I would hope listen to feedback. We have sat on a couple of meetings with CETF, and CETF is lobbying very hard. California Emerging Technologies Fund is lobbying very hard for them to throw the maps out completely, because they are really focused on digital equity initiatives. And they say that this is, completely misrepresents the actual need and the disparity of the digital divide. Anyone else have a comment about the CPUC maps?
Well, I got one more, Shelby.
Yeah, please hop in.
Actually, I guess this is more FCC than CPUC, but while we're on the topic of maps not being accurate, as we know, the FCC has put out, the hexagon map is one I'm referring to. These hexagons that cover the US. In this map, if you zoom into our area and you start looking around, and I have not only looked at the map like Shelby's doing, but again, I pulled the source data that you can get in full GIS format, so I can put it into a proper mapping application and really get down into the details on it. And what I'm seeing reported here is just radically, it's a fantasy. They're reporting extremely high levels of service all over the place. And it would lead someone looking at this map to say, well, why do we need to fund broadband? We're doing such a super job here, when we know that's not the case. And then there's been a few reports in the technology news that I follow, that I've shared to Shelby and to Bill, of there's cases emerging where people are catching parties misrepresenting their level of service they're providing. And in one case, somebody, I think this was in Texas, somebody with a telecom admitted that, oh, well, we don't, we reported X level of service, but we don't provide that. And we did it because we're trying to keep a lid, because they didn't want funding to go out in that one case, in that story that I shared to Shelby. So anyway, here's another case here where this is not reality. This is not showing reality, and the opportunity to challenge this is it's begging to be challenged, in my opinion. All right, back to you, Shelby.
Tim, I gotta interject, dude. I love you because you have just articulated every thought that I've ever had. Poor Bill has heard me for a long time just go cray over some of this data. So blessings to you, my friend, for just saying it like you're seeing it. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, yeah, and Julie, I could certainly, if I know you're the CIO or you're a technology person. If you want to, I could show you the details of this. If you want to get into it, contact me.
Thank you.
Thank you all for the conversation. So I think we can agree that there's some complexities. Julie pointed out 25.3 is what's represented on the FCC maps, and I'm pretty sure we can all agree that that's not sufficient now, let alone in the future. So there's some complexities about it, and it's unfortunately linked to millions of dollars of funding that will be distributed over the next year to improve broadband access around our region and around the country. So we can use this platform to share all of the faults we find with it, but I do think it's also important for us to know how to challenge it and to continue making those challenges. The bulk challenge process for the FCC National Broadband Map is you still can submit bulk challenges if you find, if you're a municipality, for example, and you find, Santa Paula is on the call. If you find that this information is not accurately representing your community, you can still submit bulk challenges. There's not a guarantee anymore that it will be reviewed before the June deadline that they've set for allocating funding. However, I do think it's really important that you still submit that information. Because as Kirsten pointed out with the CPUC maps, there are still conversations going on about how this will all shake out in the long run. So with FCC, you can, click on your area, you can type in your address and you can file an individual challenge as well as bulk challenges. So if you, let's see if there's a better way to do this. Well, I'm not going to do a demonstration right now. There are demonstration videos on the FCC website here. And I would encourage you to follow that process if there are specific places that are misrepresented on the map, and log that so that the providers can review it and respond to it. It provides an opportunity for providers to also say, oh, actually, weird that that's not coming up as serviceable when we do offer service there, or to say, as Tim pointed out, we over-reported our bad. Let's fix that map. So it is important. So I would encourage you to continue reporting those on the national broadband map that FCC has pointed out. On the CPUC map, you can also do individual comments. So this isn't necessarily a challenge, but you can narrow into your area of interest, and you can submit right here, search and give feedback. You can provide a public comment on, see, look, we have one about Los Alamos, wonderful already. Saying, why isn't Los Alamos on this map as a priority area? It even shows that there's unserved locations in that tiny little town on the 101. So I would encourage you all to continue submitting those comments. Let us know if you're having trouble with it, and we can see what we can do to work with you. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to add? I did want to give Tim a chance to share the speed test overlay maps that he created for us. No other comments? Well, Tim, I don't know if you want to take the lead on this part of the conversation to share a little bit about what you did in this map. Otherwise, I can speak about it.
Well, how about Shelby? I think that it's going to be most efficient if this remains your show, your meeting. So you go ahead, and I'll jump in to add any detail that I think needs to be added. You think that's the best way to do it?
Sounds great. Sounds great.
Okay, but I'm going to make one more aside right now before you get into this. I am wondering, given that it seems that these maps that are being put out by staff level people without a great level of which shocks me, because these are getting so much attention because they're tied to a lot of funding. But anyway, if these maps are being put out by staffers without a lot of oversight, it leads me to wonder how much attention is going to be getting paid to comments made on the maps. I think it's still worthy to make comments, and something that we could do, just as an idea, Shelby, we could, as the consortium, we could certainly put out something that advertises to the public, here's how you can make a comment on this thing. And maybe we could do a little bit of technology, maybe to aggregate comments in. We could kind of help to facilitate the commenting process. That's something we could look into, because I think it'd be much more powerful if we could, because if we lent our profile to this, we could maybe turn, the trickle of a few dozen comments into hundreds of comments, something to think about. All right. Anyway, why don't you talk through these, and I'll jump in wherever I think I need to.
Tim and Shelby, can I just add there? Tim, you keep making me think of things. I think you're right on the comments, although we may want to, well, again, I don't know exactly when this next map's coming out, but we may want to focus our power on that next map, because I think in terms from what I'm hearing at the state level, no one's really looking at that map that's there now, because everybody's assuming that's getting thrown out and a new one's coming. The other thing is that there is apparently a very lively legislative hearing about that map with lots of angry legislators because no one's happy with the map. And so whether or not the individual comments are being heard, the overall comments seem to be loud and out there. And that's another way we can go as we're trying to get messages out about the good and bad and ugly in all of these maps, at least in California as they're developed.
It's a great strategy. And in the meantime, I do think it's worth commenting if you have specific knowledge about it, or contacting your legislators and reaching out and saying, we think that you should join this conversation. So Tim was kind enough to put together these overlay maps for us. Again, this is based on those CPUC priority maps that we know are being reevaluated, and it uses speed test data that we've gathered over the last year. Speed test data can represent different issues that are going on at service locations, but it can also give you a pretty good idea of bigger areas where there are lags in speed available to households or being utilized by households. I think it's important that they show the the ground truth of what's actually happening in areas. And we've been really requesting people to take the speed tests regularly so that it shows a more clear, coherent picture. We haven't had a lot of tests in Ventura County. We've only been doing this over the last few months in Ventura County, but this is the map, the overlays, and really shows you that there are some locations that still aren't hitting that 100 symmetrical speed that are not listed as priority areas.
No.
And some parts of the priority areas that have significant numbers of tests registered that are over that 100 download speed. This is the Santa Barbara South Coast. I'm sure Kirsten and Eleanor are interested in this map particularly. We just did a little pullout because we had so much data for this particular area from the broadband strategic plan that had been done last year. We thought it painted a really good picture of what's possible with the speed test data overlays. And you can see here, same thing. While there are some locations that are served well above 100, there's still a pretty significant amount that aren't reaching that next tier of speed, that 100 download speed that we're really looking for in order to be future forward communities and maintain multiple households with multiple connections. This is Santa Barbara County as a whole, painting the clear advocacy picture for Los Alamos, I think, and also somewhat clearer pictures in Cuyama, which has a sliver of it that's been of that North County that's been listed as a priority area, but also, how do we reach these other outlying rural areas that are registered and having lower speeds. For those of you who are here in San Luis Obispo County, you'll see that a lot of the data is in North County because they've been working on the North County fiber project. And San Luis Obispo has a much higher coverage on the priority area maps. They're more rural. Again, we don't know why the priority areas were necessarily differentiated. That algorithm hasn't been painted really clearly. But it makes the case in some of these areas that there are pockets that could have been more clearly designated as priority areas for funding, for creating more infrastructure. We are going to be monitoring the changes in the mapping and can put together this type of visual again, if it's helpful to you when you're speaking to your respective communities and your respective councils in terms of the advocacy that you want to do as a community or as individual enterprises. Tim, did you want to add anything?
Couple things, yeah. Okay, just to make it crystal clear, these gray areas in the maps that Shelby is showing, those are the priority areas. Now in the interactive map, those are all made different colors just to distinguish them, which Shelby and I both found to be confusing. So we just made them all an equal gray color, and you can see there's white borders between them so that it's not lost that the CPUC does identify different zones, even though all the zones kind of largely merged together. There are different zones, so they're all gray. Okay, anything gray is priority area. That's the first thing. The second thing is if you look closely, just for some extra geographic context, in the thin red polygons, those are the incorporated areas. I was trying to keep this informational without it being too overwhelming. So going with a minimalistic approach. So you can see the red. So the reds are the cities. You got the county boundary, and then you got the gray, which are the priority areas. And then the other thing is the speed test results themselves. So you can see I used a technique where the points are aggregated together. So you're not seeing literally every point, but you're seeing them clustered together. And as you get more points, the dot gets bigger. And if you have a yellow or an orange or a purple, that's not good. And if you have a green or a blue, that's good or very good. And in Santa Barbara County, we've got around 4,000 speed test responses. Okay, so you see big numbers and you see big circles. In Ventura County, SLO County, in Ventura County, I think we only had 250 responses at this point in time, because we only recently started running the speed test survey. So you see the points are smaller because there's really not a great deal of data. And in SLO County, it's around, I don't think it's even 500 responses in SLO County yet. So over time, we'll be getting more data in there. But where we really have the good data is Santa Barbara County at this point.
And we do have the speed test still running for San Luis Obispo and Ventura County. If you would like to link to our website to promote them through your own channels to the communities, we can continue to gather data through June for you so that you have access to the speed tests available in each of those respective counties.
Yeah, I really urge everybody to promote these speed tests. We never ended up doing this, but at one point I was suggesting on an internal call that maybe we could get people to put some flyers up even in specific neighborhoods where we're not getting any responses. So yeah, so everybody, please try to promote these tests.
Can you put the link in the chat for us, please?
Okay, Shelby, I can find it unless, yeah,
it's right
I'll
on our
find it.
website. PC broadband, yeah, everyone will see it if I go searching for it.
Okay, I'll find it. I'll put it in the chat for everybody in a few minutes. Just take me a minute to find it.
Any other thoughts or feedback before we move on to our inclusion pillar?
I just don't know how we're going to control for some of the stories I've heard, and maybe it doesn't matter, but you know, the poverty, we have 6,000 homeless families in Ventura County. And some of them are being rented. Like I heard a story last week that made me cry, which is no shock if you know me, but families are being charged $1,500 to $2,000 a month to rent a room. And it just so happens that there are two families being rented that same room, and they're kind of job sharing the room. So one family would get it for 12 hours, one family would get it for the other 12 hours. And so I don't know how we're capturing those kinds of data as we talk about, you know, 91% of Ventura County is connected. You know, I just, the stories we're going to hear next week at this conference, I think are going to blow our hair back in some of our communities.
Thanks, Julie. Okay. Well, that actually is the perfect segue to our inclusion pillar here. The first piece, just to let you know a little bit about the inclusion pillar, we're talking about the digital divide, which is the gap between the people who have access to internet, can afford it, and know how to use it, and the people who are missing one of the vital pieces of that. Perhaps they can't afford it, maybe they can afford it, or they're accessing it through the Affordable Connectivity Program, but they don't, they can't use it for the things that will help them improve their lives. So they don't have the access to digital literacy training that they need in order to access health, economic, democratic outcomes. We are co-hosting with the Digital Equity Coalition in Ventura a conference next Thursday. Julie, if you don't mind putting the registration link back in the chat. I know a few people have joined us since the start of the meeting. This conference is a fantastic opportunity to share what's happening in your communities in terms of digital equity initiatives and challenges or barriers to working with community members who don't have access to the internet, the high-speed internet in their homes. We will have a panel discussion. It'll be hosted by Dr. Cesar Morales, superintendent. And the panel will be representing cross-sector leaders who are able to talk about the importance, the imperative of having access to the success of their work in the communities. And then we'll also have some tabletop activities where we're seeking information from the organizational leaders that are attending. Julie, did you want to add anything to that?
No, if you have already registered, I just sent out an email with a couple flyers with more context for the day. It is going to be a participatory meeting. It is not a sit and get, although I'm bribing you with some pretty yummy breakfast to come early to network. But it's really important that that we hear all the voices, and I'm really excited because we have a lot of verticals showing up that maybe we hadn't anticipated, like the Rainbow Connection, family services, and all these service industries that are in the trenches with the people that need the help. So I'm very excited for us to hear the input from all of these people to start to build the picture of Ventura County, a realistic picture of Ventura County with some goals and objectives for solving some of our issues.
Julie.
And I'm nervous about it, so let's just all come together and make it great.
I think it would be great to have some of the folks on this call show up and provide their perspective. So I hope you'll consider it. And if you just show up for the food and the great conversation, it does it. Up in Santa Barbara County, we have launched the Digital Equity Coalition. This is actually an effort led by the Santa Barbara Foundation, and they have convened a fairly large group of partners that are community-based organizations. They're really centering their organization, their coalition, on nonprofits and countywide organizations that are working with communities who are traditionally underrepresented in success rankings. And so they've been able to convene their first partnership meeting. I believe they had about 40 to 50 people on the meeting, and had a great conversation about what some of the challenges those organizations are facing and some of the needs that they have as a community. We're working on finding a space for our internet providers to join that conversation as listening partners to hear what's going on in the communities and what areas of need they might be able to help partner as resource partners. And also just to improve your own offerings. If you'd like to learn more about the Santa Barbara Digital Equity Coalition, they do have a monthly newsletter, and I will link to that in our monthly newsletter so that you can sign up for it. I believe I linked to it in the February newsletter. Up in San Luis Obispo, there will be a digital equity roundtable coming up next week. This was an invitation-only stakeholder meeting really designed around some key partners around San Luis Obispo County who can do outreach for affordable connectivity programming. The ACP, as you may know, is a subsidy, a federal subsidy that offers a $30 discount to eligible households to help them pay for the cost of their internet plan. In most cases, there is an option for that internet to then be free through the provider. But if they'd like to pay for a higher level plan, that still applies as a discount. Stay tuned for the SLO DE roundtable. We'll hopefully hear back about how that went and what the outcomes were and be able to share them out here, and then talk a little more about how that planning will go moving forward. The last inclusion outcome update I wanted to share is about the BEAD regional local meetings. If you've been following the BEAD funding conversation, you will know that the state of California is required to submit a statewide digital equity plan as part of the BEAD allocation and the digital equity action funding that is allocated by the federal government. As part of the process for developing that statewide digital equity plan, California Department of Technology, who is writing the plan, and the CPUC are working together to gather data to help them inform what the imperatives and the priorities are in that plan. They've sent out a survey. They have some working groups. You should have seen something about that in the last newsletter. Working groups that you can attend their meetings. The first set of meetings was this week. They will continue to have meetings, I think maybe 5 more sets, to get sector specific feedback on the digital equity challenges and barriers and needs. And then also innovations and future forward ideas. And they will also be having a regional local meeting. They're hosting 20 regional local meetings across the state. And they have selected Santa Barbara as a host site for one of those meetings in order to gather feedback from San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura County. They chose Santa Barbara because it's in the middle, not because of any other priority. But I will have more information about that and we'll send it out through the newsletter. And I really hope that once we've set the date, you can save the date to attend. I really would love to see a wide range of representation to give input into that state digital equity plan. Any questions about the digital equity updates? I will pass it over to Bill.
You believe we've been at this for 10 years? I mean, it's amazing when you think about it. And the 3 I's, the infrastructure, inclusion, and innovation, we've made a lot of progress in 2 of those I's. You know, the 2 I's obviously have been with what we're expecting this next year with last mile funding for infrastructure, and then BEAD funding is talking about inclusion. In the 10 years, we've got significant funds that are coming for infrastructure and inclusion. And the innovation piece is going to be part of the conversation as well. And I'm not going to guarantee the billions of dollars in the first 2 that are going to come for innovation. It's going to be much more collaborative in terms of how we do this and how smart we are in the technologies that are available. The point is, these conversations need to all occur together. And you'll find so many times we're talking about this and then we're talking about that and then we're talking about something else. We really are trying to integrate this, whether you recall over the years, the 3-legged stool or the 3 rungs of the ladder. Yeah, all of these, we keep talking about it. And so I'm excited about this next chapter in the big changes that have occurred in the last decade is we have taken care of 2 of the 3 I's in terms of funding. And we're going to continue to be watching where it goes, how it goes. The mapping is so important to make sure it goes where it's supposed to go. I had to bite my tongue several times in earlier slides because you folks all know, if you know me, I tend to be skeptical about state and federal levels. One of the folks that we used to have on these meetings, you know, Kevin Pasasage, if you recall, I talk with him quite a bit, you know, as it relates, and he's now the CIO for the state of Connecticut. Yeah, and so he and I were talking about the federal level and the maps that we've seen, at the federal level. And entire states are as all up in arms as we are locally, because everything is local. And as I was listening to the conversation, I'm saying, how do we take everything we're doing with all the knowledge we have and push back in a very data evidence oriented way, that this is what we know we need because we live here, and really push that back, because that's what's going to have to happen, I think, in the next several months. Is the alternative is going to have to bubble up from down here, and then we're going to have to make our case. Just provide us, and Terry Theobald has been doing this all along when it comes to the middle mile. We know what you want to give us. Let us tell you what we need. And that's going to have to be where this conversation evolves towards as we continue doing what we do. So from an innovation standpoint, it is a transformational moment. When we have the infrastructure in place, what's going to run on it? When the people do have the skills and are all connected, what are they going to do with it? And that's the final piece of this transformational conversation, is the innovation piece. Transportation technologies, sensors, environmental and otherwise, healthcare, social services, you name it, education, virtual schoolhouses, that's going to all be part of the conversation. We have terrific assets with our military technologies, both in Navy base Ventura County, but also up north in Vandenberg, in the support and the partnerships coming out of Cal Poly and San Luis Obispo, as well as throughout Santa Barbara County. I'm looking forward. I've gotten an email from Vandenberg today wanting to know, where are we? Well, what's happening in this space? I'm looking forward to now. I lost track, frankly. We were having these conversations until the pandemic hit. And over the last year or two, we've been scampering around doing what we needed to do. I'm looking forward to getting back on track, having the technology discussions, having the pilots where we talk about, here's some cool stuff you can do. Convening the meetings where the cities and city reps are looking together at the technologies that we can embrace as a region, and really trying to move this conversation forward. So I wish I could tell you more today, but our funding for the consortia has only been with us now for 16 days. But this is a previews of coming attractions, where we want to go, what we want to do as a consortium over the next 3 years. So Shelby, I'll turn it back to you. That was my passionate plea.
Any questions or comments? I don't know if you can match his passion. No. Okay, well, this brings us into the last half hour of our meeting, roundtable discussion, partner updates. If you have something that you'd like to share with the group, questions you have, comments, we'd love to hear from you.
From my perspective, thank you, Shelby. You're awesome, by the way. I really appreciate your facilitation. From my perspective, the connectivity part, well, super duper important, because without connectivity, you don't have a chance. Obviously, at the County Office of Education, my focal point is becoming more and more and more on digital upskilling and teaching people the tools they need. Partnered with that story I shared already was a story about a Mixteco woman who, during the baby formula shortage, needed baby formula, and this one partner that will be at our meeting next week, they're not allowed to offer things, you have to ask them for things, but this woman is illiterate and could not read the label of the formula. So she couldn't ask for the product because she didn't know what it was, because she couldn't read. She had to be taught how to take a picture from the phone to be able to forward that picture about the product. We have people in our county, you guys, it's a bigger problem than just connectivity. So how do we attack that? How do we get people, how do we provide these trainings and these opportunities to learn and grow? That, I think, is going to be a huge challenge for us. I urge you to think outside of the box and try to find those populations that need non-traditional support or what we think of. I think we have challenges out there we're not aware of. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Julie.
I think also important is, as Bill was mentioning, is the three-legged stool is, yes, if we can get the infrastructure, that's great, but the affordability of the new technology, making it available for all populations and all income levels, that's going to be really important. As I mentioned, you know, Frontier and Los Alamos is now upgrading their infrastructure, and that's going ahead. We still don't know what the cost of this is going to be to the community, whether or not it'll be affordable for many of the community in there, even though, and in the conversation that Shelby and I were having in the chat too, you know, Starlink is now an option in a lot of California. But that affordability is still not going to increase the amount of internet that's available to a lot of the state.
And Shelby, I'll just add on the affordability pieces. And those of you who I talk to regularly, you've heard me and Eleanor talk a lot about this, but you know, in our service area, we have our affordability programs, which are across the board low income programs, plus, you know, coupled with the ACP, you can get free internet. What we run into is sort of, as Julie was saying, it's reaching some of the communities that you can't reach through as traditional methods, you know, and I think we've always taken sort of a wide approach, working with schools, working with nonprofits, working with governments, working with libraries, and we're continuing all of that. But we're also looking for all of those partners in the community to help us identify new and different ways that maybe we haven't thought of before. And I think that is where we can all sort of working together get into some of those pockets to help get people connected. And Julie, I love what you said, because it's not just about the connectivity, but it's helping people understand how they use the connectivity, how to access the connectivity, how to use the connectivity. We also have, and this is available for everyone, not just our customers, but we have what we call the Cox Digital Academy, which is just a whole bunch of resources, everything from as basic as, you know, here's how you turn on your computer and log on to the internet, to more in-depth things around, you know, cybersecurity and digital etiquette and those types of things, and kind of everything in between. And we source those from a lot of different places and pull them into this digital academy that's available for folks. So, and I know other organizations are doing things like that too. Partners in Education here in the county is doing a lot around that digital education and digital literacy.
George?
Yes, hi. And I wanted to talk a little bit about locally here in the city of Ventura. The digital divide is coming back into conversation locally. Is there anybody on the call from the city of Ventura? I don't believe there is, but I just want to check. Okay, so the conversation has come into place about translation for non-English speaking residents. And there was a pilot project that was put in for translation services that may or may not be continued. But I've become aware now of the importance of this, and I think that correlates to a lot of the conversation that Julie is concerned about, and possibly, if I understand this correctly. And also probably what I've learned about from the volunteer work I did with the Complete Count Committee and the census. I'm more sensitive to it now than I've ever been in my entire life. And I could see how it's important to these communities, those most vulnerable, most at risk, especially with the migrant farm workers and the level of trust. So Julie, I appreciate you putting this together, and I hope that you receive participation from the city of Ventura. Can I share my screen for a moment? Is that possible?
Yeah, let me just, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. And so if you can see the screen, this is from the Ventura City Council agenda that was published and for the meeting that took place this past Monday evening. Council adopted its new goals. And I consider it a real win for the residents of the city of Ventura as it relates to the conversation about broadband. And then in addition, I would just want to point out to the group here, and Bill Simmons and I have talked about this largely going back on and ongoing since 2015. Everything is operating in silos. And I would suggest, sorry, Bill? Oh, okay. I would suggest that we need to further break down the conversation from becoming siloed. I will give a lot of praise for our new council member, Bill McReynolds, to drive this goal and not allow the topic of broadband to just get shuffled aside. We've had great support at council from council member Mike Johnson and now with council member Bill McReynolds. And so the city of Ventura is taking a leap of faith by choosing Sci-Fi as a vendor to do a broadband rollout within the city. But Sci-Fi really hasn't done anything yet. They haven't, as my understanding, haven't pulled permits, et cetera. Now the city of Ventura is going to reignite its iNet to a 2.0 version using the traffic signal network, which is great. They're leveraging some of the LATA grant money and some other monies to do that, which is wonderful. And so hopefully, you know, by we get to the deadline here of 2024, the city of Ventura will have a significant leg up. Now, here's why I'm bringing this to the group. I'm one voice as an advocate within the city. The broadband consortium isn't really to help create public advocacy to council or to staff. And my greatest fear is there's a huge regional effort taking place and the city of Ventura hosting the county seat in Ventura County. It's operating as an island. And there's not a lot of participation that I'm aware of within this group of the broadband consortium from the county level. I don't know what else I can do to stimulate that discussion. And I'm asking for help to keep this front and center.
George, just so you'll know, I have spent considerable time with the CTO from Ventura City. Because I used to be the CTO at Ventura Unified School District, and we write on the iNet. Anyway, talking with him and Bill a lot for a while about that. So he does reach out occasionally and has interacted. So maybe
that's wonderful. I appreciate that. But
a personal invite to next week.
That's great. No, I appreciate it. And I just want you to know that the way this is being siloed within the discussion, the CTO is a great guy. The Public Works Director is a great guy. But Public Works is really taking charge of this as a project. It's not necessarily information technology. So it's very siloed. And, you know, the Public Works Director has a way of approaching this from his perspective where, you know, it's water infrastructure are the priorities and street paving are the priorities. But I don't believe that the priority is really broadband. And so anyway, I'm just voicing that.
You guys are throwing it down today. I love it, man. I'm loving it. And because the CPUC, I think the reason why you're seeing that is because the CPUC at the state level is the one driving the bus, right? So it makes sense that the utilities people are the ones. And I think there's a vibe out there that broadband should be a public utility. It shouldn't be this thing out there that's just a moneymaker for a few vendors.
I have strong opinions about that. I've been a registered public utility myself, and it's something that has to get figured out, because all the cities and the counties, et cetera, rely on taxable revenue and surcharges off of plain old telephone services. And they also rely on revenue off of cable franchise bills. With cord cutting, with the shift to streaming, competitive broadband, that revenue is at risk to the cities and for the taxation. That's a much bigger conversation. But I will just emphasize that these conversations are very siloed.
The one thing that's changed a lot, and part of the reason it's siloed is because of the resources available and where they originate from. What's changed in the last 6 months, City of Santa Paula's applied for LATA, Ventura's applied for LATA, Port Huenemi's applied for LATA, Terry Theobald has gotten LATA. We're trying to bring LATA into now for VCOG. And so the resources that are available at this point for the public sector are going to be huge compared to where they have been in prior years. And it's our responsibility to drive those to eliminate those silos as we continue the conversation. That your point is spot on. We need to leverage everywhere we go with everybody's efforts, be aware of each other's LATAs, making sure that we're all at the table together to have the conversations Julie's talking about, especially as it relates to INET, because I know early on in some of the planning, INET was the model for a regional network everywhere. We wanted to have an INET kind of partnership, if you will, throughout Ventura County. And I think that's still a good vision for us, but we can't do it with the silos, and we won't do it that way. And so you just need to be the canary in the coal mine as you do so well. And we're going to continue heading in the direction that you're talking about. And I think we'll get there. Lots changed in the last 6 months, 12 years, and 12 months. And I think it's good. We're heading in the right direction now.
I agree, Bill, wholeheartedly. A lot has changed. And it's the efforts of this group and the voice of this group which has helped affect that change. There's still more work to do. And thank you for your efforts.
And I think that Rich from City of Lompoc is not on the call anymore, but I wish he was here to share a little bit about their LATA project, because they are crossing over these boundaries from just infrastructure to adoption orientation with their LATA grant. So they're looking at infrastructure, but they're really also looking at adoption rates. And why is there a gap there? Is it an infrastructure gap, or is it a gap of interest? Is it a gap of ability, or a gap of knowledge about the resources? So I do think that all of us being in the same room and hearing, attending the digital equity conferences, even if your primary focus is, infrastructure, being aware of the need and being aware of areas that are, saying we're underserved, and maybe it's not because of infrastructure, maybe it's because of something else, but there's got to be a way that we can work together to close that gap. Anyone else? We have 10 more minutes before I'm going to turn off the recording button and close out the conversation, but I really appreciate everybody's thoughtfulness today being here.
It's definitely an elephant, isn't it? And multiple people are munching on this elephant at the same time. And to George's point, I'm used to working in a siloed environment because education has perfected the art of, but and I don't know that we need to knock down silos, but I definitely think we need to continue to build those bridges between the silos so that we know who the points of contact are and how to affect the change that we're trying to change. But you're here, so you are being the change, right? Be the change you want to see. That's you. That's us.
Well said, Julie.
I'm going to retire in a couple of years, so it's easier for me to. I've been saying almost on the daily, damn, I'm glad I'm almost 61, because I don't know if I could do it if I was 40. It's just so much work to do. So much work to do.
Don't go until you get it done.
Hey, George, I don't mean to, I know we're running short on time. This might be a long explanation, but what
Miguel.
is, nice to meet you, by the way. I'm from the city of Santa Paula, so
Right.
we're neighbors. INET.
Andy Sobel is a friend of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Awesome.
great guy.
Yeah, great guy. INET 2.0. I just wanted to quickly ask, is there a quick summary that I can kind of get of this?
Sure. I don't know if I'm the qualified person to deliver exactly what it does, but I could give you my layman's assessment.
Mhm.
The INET, as I understand it, is a fiber optic run within the city of Ventura that was put together with the renewal of the old Avenue TV cable franchise. And it connects anchor institutions within the city of Ventura and the county, shared with the governmental agency. And so it was almost like they peeled off some IRUs and gave it to the city when they laid the fiber.
Gotcha.
It's a little outdated. It needs to be brought up, after 20 years of service, perhaps, just my opinion.
It does.
Reclaiming some new fiber, pulling some new fiber, and updating optical equipment. Julie, did I get that right?
You did beautifully.
Right.
And hopefully in their modernization, they'll put in measures for sustainability. Because there's shared rack space and all that kind of stuff, and they didn't really put a plan into, I know because I was going to those meetings all the time. And we never had to pay any kind of colo fee or anything like that. So they need to plan for that sustainability moving forward, in my mind.
So my personal opinion, again, this is my personal opinion, is it's a real opportunity for last mile and middle mile, but it has a limitation. It's only within the city of Ventura. And I think that if we had dig once policies, the limited amount of capacity there as time goes on will quickly get consumed. However, we're not there yet. I'm thinking far ahead.
Right.
I personally believe that we need to have like 10 empty conduits running from the city of Ventura through to Camarillo, or at least to the border to connect. And the State Water Interconnect project, I also believe, is a catalyst to stimulate a really tremendous middle mile network. I'm not directly involved in those conversations. That's Terry leading that. Again, I'm just a resident, a concerned citizen at this stage of my career, and an advocate in this discussion. Previously, I had business interests, but I'm focused on other avenues now. So 10 years, here we are, Bill.
Can I ask anyone here, do we know what they are on the Santa Barbara North County fiber loop?
A little bit. I'm really glad you asked. I was hoping John Harden would be on the call today. He's with Teleworks, and Teleworks is working on that project with Econ Alliance and the Shumash. They are just getting started. So the funding to do the design and analysis was approved. I don't know, Bill, they put out the RFP in October, November.
Now we're in a month of billings under their belt. So yeah, it's moving forward. They in the month of December, they took RFPs, they made the selection right after, I believe, early part of January, and we're now a month in. Really excited about where they're going. I mean, they're going to be pushing hard and working fast. And I think it's going to, a lot of these monies expire in the 26. And so the actual build out, the actual construction, of all of these miles of fiber need to be, we need to be putting it all together this year and then spending it and doing digs next year, in the year after. And so this is happening really, really fast. Getting it right and doing it well is going to be very important for 23. That's for sure.
And Kurt, they've gone and presented to a number of councils just to introduce themselves, and Vicky Connor from Econ Alliance has been sort of hosting them as they go around, and Carrie Gray, is that his last name, Bill?
Yeah.
They presented to the supervisors, county
Mhm.
supervisors.
Yeah, and SB CAG, so they've been just meeting folks initially. We should talk about how we can get a Los Alamos like working group or something where it's organized and we can go and say, hey, you know about this? Do you know about this?
Well, the urgency is arising now because there is a new development that is coming, bringing 59 new homes to Los Alamos, and there's not the infrastructure for broadband. And so how are they going to be able to serve these new homes? And I think that's happening across the county too, different areas. The building is still coming, but there's not the internet support.
Changing subjects a little bit. I meant as I was giving the thought had occurred to me as I was giving my innovation speech platform to give a shout out to Cox. Once again, when it comes to telecom companies, they have been really out there in the innovation space with their smart home demonstrations, initiatives, and discussions. Their ability to convene everybody in their area and have this discussion and show off these technologies. I view it as a best practice, and so every time I get the opportunity to talk about Smart City and Cox, I do it together. I mean, they're the ones that are walking the talk, and I appreciate that, and appreciate them for doing that.
Thanks, Bill. We have some new info kind of hot off the press this week. We're going to send to you and Shelby.
Looking forward to it.
And you can share it broadly. It just came out, so we haven't gotten it to you yet.
All right,
Okay.
we'll look forward to that. All right, well, I think that we've simmered down into a lull in the conversation, but I hope that we'll be able to see everybody next month. Since you registered for the whole series. So if you just make sure you've had those added to your calendar, should remind you about the meeting and provide the link. Feel free to forward our newsletter to anyone to help spread the word about the meetings and the information that we're trying to provide so that we can connect with more folks.
Shelby, just a FYI, during our meeting, I sent out to all of the school districts the speed test link and asked them to please share it out. I also included my communications director, and I'll ask him to put it out through social media from the County Office of Ed. That should help a little bit, maybe get some more data for the speed test.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thank you so much.